Hello and welcome to our next episode of the Legacy Lab podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kramer, and I am delighted to have a special guest for you guys today, Caeden Tinklenberg.
Thanks, Mike.
How are you?
To be on the show. I'm doing well.
Good to see you, man.
You too.
We've gotten to know each other professionally initially, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like we've kind of become friends along the way.
Yeah, we're definitely on the hugging level.
I forgot to hug you this morning, so I owe you a hug.
Okay.
I owe you a hug. So today we're going to talk about something that's been really, really impactful in my personal business, and as a real estate investor will be very impactful in your business. I think for most people, it comes down to this awareness. Like, I didn't even know people like Caeden existed just a few years ago. And we were talking just recently, and I think he's close to saving me $1 million.
Yeah, hopefully more.
It's been an incredible, eye-opening education and experience, and I couldn't be more grateful. Honestly, I see you not just as a vendor, but really as a key part of our business. Every asset we buy now, we bring you in, and you can help guide us through that insurance piece. So it's been huge, and I think that's kind of the first thing I want to help solve for all of you guys is understanding what a public adjuster is and how they help in the insurance world. But secondly, when you have a claim, how they can really advocate for you and put you on the right side of the insurance claim. So you're getting what is due to you, what the policy calls for, and not relying or trusting one side of the equation, which is the insurance adjuster. So without further ado, why don't you give us just a little quick summary of your background and how you got started, where are you from, how'd you get started, how'd we end up here today?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Sioux Falls. I grew up there. And my father actually owns a construction company that does mostly storm restoration type work. And so I literally grew up in the industry, primarily on the contractor side, of course. And so after I went to college, I ended up moving to Minneapolis to sell roofs for a construction company up there. And that worked out pretty well, but storms are seasonal and they move and they don't always hit in the same spot. And at the time, my wife was in vet school at Iowa State. And so serendipitously in 2018, a big hailstorm hit Ames, Iowa. So I was able to move back to where my wife was and sell for a company there. And that worked out very well. And about a year later, unfortunately, there were some court cases that came out that essentially dictated that contractors can no longer help their clients, their policyholders, their homeowners with their claim.
That's what you were used to at that time.
Exactly, yeah. So as the contractor, these homeowners would hire us to obviously make the repairs to their property, but a lot of that was dictated by the insurance company.
Sure.
And if I didn't feel like my client was getting what they deserved from their insurance company, I felt like it was my obligation to help them get what they deserved and to provide the insurance company with the evidence and the justification and, to a certain degree, argue with them over what I thought my client was entailed. Well, 33 Carpenters versus State Farm came out in 2019. And
that was the name of the claim?
That was the name of the case, the court case.
Okay, 33 Carpenters.
33 Carpenters was the name of the construction company out of Bettendorf, Iowa.
Okay.
Quad Cities area. And the Supreme Court said, they painted with a very broad brush that said contractors cannot assist their clients with their insurance claims because it is the unauthorized practice of public adjusting. So it's what I do now without a license. And they said that wasn't allowed. So that put the kibosh on doing what I was doing as a contractor.
What was at that moment? I'm just curious. What were you thinking, and how did you're leading these conversations, advocating for homeowners, helping them, get what they justly deserve, and that all of a sudden with this one judgment was taken away from you. What were you thinking, and how did that feel?
Well, it happened, the court case came out, I'm pretty sure it was February 9. And I knew the writing was on the wall almost immediately that I couldn't continue to do what I was doing. Shortly thereafter, there were a few times where adjusters threatened to report me to the insurance division if I even got on the roof with them.
My goodness.
So it got pretty hot pretty fast.
So you weren't able to really help any homeowners. Were you trying to then figure out what am I going to do?
Yeah, and I had been aware of what a public adjuster was. I had referred some of my clients to public adjusters, and I hadn't really considered it seriously up until that point. But like I said, the writing was on the wall. I can't continue doing what I'm doing, and advocating for my client, getting a just outcome for them was the favorite part of what I did.
Yeah.
And
that's the reward. Putting a roof on is putting a roof on, and cleaning up the shingles and driving away. There's a little pride. Right. But the greater satisfaction is I helped them get what they deserved.
Exactly.
I love that.
And that's what it appeared to be what public adjusting was all about. And turns out it was. So I've been very happy.
Here we are.
Exactly.
Here we are. And I can tell you guys, in my own experience, I have felt like Caeden has had my back every step of the way on any of the claims. He's worked on dozens and dozens of claims for me over the years. And it's, as a business owner, as a property owner, it gives me a level of comfort knowing that someone's advocating for me, but also peace of mind knowing that I don't have to worry about what's going on with this claim and babysit it and track it and try to follow up and try to keep track of everything in my head of what's happening with all these different things. If you have one property, it's not a big deal, but when you get to a certain scale, it can be a big deal. And I would argue that really at any scale, having your involvement is really important. So
yeah, big or small, carriers deny them all.
Oh, did you just come up with that on the spot?
I just came up with that on the spot.
That might be the name of our podcast. Big or small, carriers deny them all. Okay, I like it. I like it. Did you want to sing or dance, or did you want to rap or something you wanted to do?
I'll leave that up to you.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig into it a little bit. I did some research in preparing for this conversation because I'm not the expert, and I wanted to ask questions that I think would provide the most value for our listeners. So let's talk about like when a property owner is about to, they have damage, whether it's a storm or water damage, something happens and they need to file a claim. Mm-hmm. Why is it so common for them to face challenges when filing a claim? Why is that a common thing, and why don't the insurance companies actually advocate for their client the way you do as an adjuster?
Yeah, so at the root of the issue is really two factors. First, insurance companies are for-profit businesses, and what they don't pay out in claims, they make in profits at the end of the day. And it's obviously a lot more complicated than that. And there's, multiple factors. It's not just, we save $1 on a claim, we make $1 in profit, but they are inversely, right. Yeah. They're inversely related. If you have a insurance company that's insuring 1,000 properties in Iowa and it's a slow year with no major storms, they make a lot of money. They add a lot more to their, surplus. Mm-hmm. But if it's a year like 2020 with wide sweeping, the most catastrophic thunderstorm to have ever struck anywhere in the world, to my knowledge, those insurance companies lose a lot. Yeah, in Iowa. Holy buckets. Yeah, the 2020 derecho. Yeah, they lose a lot of money, right? Yeah. So that's, kind of issue number one. Ultimately, there's a pie, and whatever slice of the pie you don't get, they get to keep.
So for them, it's sort of a math problem.
Yeah.
Right? They're calculating how much premium they're getting versus the perceived risk. Mm-hmm. And if they calculate on the right side of that, meaning there wasn't as much risk as they calculated, they have more profit. If they calculate on the wrong side of it, there's more damage or storms, mm-hmm. then they come up short.
Exactly. Yep. And then the second issue is just the inherent power imbalance between the insurance companies and their policyholders. So insurance companies are some of the largest corporations in the world. They have most of them have very deep pockets, are very well connected, not only within, the government space and the regulatory space and the legislative space. Obviously, they have a very powerful lobby. But there have been, cases where judges have been ousted because they were improperly basically placed by insurance companies.
They were
right?
favoring the insurance company.
Well, not only that they were favoring, but the insurance company actually contributed and helped them get elected because
interesting.
the insurance company knew that they would be favored.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
gosh, dang it.
Yeah.
I'm such an idealist. And I think that never happens. And then here we are with this.
It definitely happens.
Gosh, more corruption.
Yep. And then they also have all the data, right? They have tons of data. They have the experience. They have the knowledge. They have all of these factors when it comes to facing off on a claim where they have the upper hand. And they've sold this narrative that you're in good hands, right? We're on your side. We're a good neighbor.
I've never heard any of these taglines before.
No, never. Not 20 times a day, not across every stadium, not every big sports player and actor and singer saying these things to you. No, it never happens, right?
It's, gosh dang it. I wish I don't like that we can't trust these guys. I mean, I don't like that they have this mantra that is so altruistic and feels great, that the dirty little secret is that they might not have our best interest in mind. So let me ask this. For someone who's filing a claim, why is it, let me see if that's the right way to ask this. Would you suggest that anyone file a claim on their own? Is there an appropriate time to do it without a public adjuster and rely on the adjuster with the insurance company? Or is it every time we need to have a public adjuster? How do they balance this? Because some of these folks, they like their insurance agent. My son-in-law is an insurance agent. And when I file a claim, I want to trust that he's guiding me and helping me. And so in many ways, they're going to be inviting someone into a relationship that their agent and the adjuster on the insurance side are going to say, you don't need. So help us understand, when is the right time, or is there a time you don't need it? Need a public adjuster? Yeah,
absolutely. So there are absolutely claims out there that get paid appropriately, fairly, promptly without the involvement of a public adjuster. But you never know that going into the claim, right? And when you talk about the insurance company's adjuster, their agent, maybe they have a preferred contractor, anyone that is employed by them or doing contract work for them or is there on their behalf or is being paid by the insurance company to provide information, they have a duty of loyalty to that insurance company.
Well, I'm guessing financial too, right? I mean, there's a fiduciary.
Right. Well, it doesn't always reach the level of fiduciary duty.
Okay.
Especially like the independent.
I'm using that term like I know what it means, and I haven't. I mean, I do. Yeah. But in terms of insurance, I don't know what rises to a level of being a fiduciary. So I didn't mean to interject that.
Yeah. So a fiduciary is a little bit higher level of loyalty.
Okay.
Loyalty just kind of means you're acting in the best interest. You're not going to betray that person. Fiduciary, gets to a much higher level of every action you take must be solely concerned with what the benefit of.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. The person with whom you have that fiduciary duty. And so the adjuster for the insurance company, the agent, their contractor, all those other people, they have that duty to the insurance company, not to the policyholder, not to the homeowner, the client, the insured.
Well, in their mind, that's one claim of hundreds they're going to do together over their life, or maybe thousands. So that relationship is very enduring and sticky, and so there's naturally loyalty there, right?
Yep. They're in their pocket one way or another.
Yeah.
Right. Whether intentionally or nefariously or unscrupulously, but just the economics of it. If you're doing work for an insurance company, you want to keep getting that work, and you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you.
So it sounds to me like you're making a case for don't file a claim without having a public adjuster involved. Is there any exception to that? I mean, you did start saying there's claims that get paid fairly. There's people that do the right thing. They're paid on time. There's not, games being played. How do we know that?
You don't, right? That's the the nature of the uncertainty and the part of the imbalance, the information imbalance that the insurance company has. They know how they're going to handle the claim. They know what tactics they're going to take. They know what defenses they're going to use, right? And not to say that they approach every claim from that bad faith perspective of how can we get out of paying this, but they do take that tactic sometimes, and you don't know if they're going to approach your claim in good faith or bad faith. And if you file a claim naively thinking that your insurance company is always going to act in good faith and handle your claim appropriately and interpret the policy correctly and fairly assess the damage, and then they don't, you're in trouble, right? You now have a disputed claim that's how many months old, and you're fighting to overturn a wrongful denial. You're fighting to basically convince the insurance company that their first opinion on the matter was incorrect. And that's a much harder battle than having a professional come in at the start, document everything correctly, prepare the claim and present it and negotiate it with the insurance company on that first blush. You're going to have a lot better outcome. And really, what are you risking?
Well, it sounds, hearing you unpack all of that sounds very expensive for me. Like it's going to cost me a lot of money to have you represent me and help me through this process. It sounds appealing, but I'm seeing dollar signs. So how do we overcome that, or how do we address that for the people that are listening saying, great, but I can't afford that?
Yeah, and that's really what you're risking, right? You're risking our fee, which depends on the state, the facts of the claim, that sort of stuff, but is generally a percentage of the claim. Somewhere between 10 and 30% is where most of our fees are, depending on the state. If you have to bring us in on the back end, we're still going to charge that, and the outcome of the claim is probably not as good. So you are risking the viability of your claim, the time it takes, the delays, a speedy resolution, extra costs like having to go to appraisal or having to go to an attorney.
Plus you have the property not being repaired properly. And
if so you're losing money there, potentially additional damages occurring. All those sort of things begin to compound the longer a claim, remains open and unresolved. And you're risking all of that to save 10% or 20%, which is likely what we'll get.
How is that charged? Just so people understand, I know our fee arrangement and how we pay. For those that don't understand, are they writing a check to an attorney retainer, or are you paid on success? How does that work?
Again, it depends on the state. Of course, insurance is regulated on a state-by-state basis. So there's 50 different experiments happening all across the country. Each has their own case law, their own statutes, that sort of stuff. But in most cases and in most states, we charge a contingency fee. So it's based upon the outcome of the claim, and we collect our percentage as the claim is paid out. So if we sign a claim on and we believe that the value of that claim is $500,000, and the insurance company issues an initial payment of $200,000, we would collect, if we're handling that at 10%, we would collect our $20,000 when that $200,000 check gets paid.
Gotcha.
When the extra $300,000 gets paid, that's when we collect our percentage then.
Gotcha. So in most cases, if I'm understanding right, which is true for us, at least to this point, is we're paying you for success.
Correct.
So if you're successful in the claim and are able to get us what's duly ours, then you earn your fee. And up until that point, you're really working in good faith for me and trusting your skills and trusting your experience and understanding policy well enough to be able to say, I think I can be successful here.
Yeah. I mean,
you're betting on yourself.
When a prospective client is talking about their claim with us and asking us about our services, one of the most common questions is, well, what are the odds? What chance do you get me? Where do you think, is this going to work out? And I say, we're taking a risk here too. We're making we're taking a calculated bet as well that we're going to be successful. Because if we're not, we've wasted our time and resources.
Absolutely.
We've wasted our opportunity cost.
Could have been working on something else that would have paid out. Yeah, of course.
And of course, when the claims don't have good outlooks, that holds true as well. And that's why we have to turn down some claims that, are either just don't have the good facts, or they're too old, or in some cases, we just don't like the clients.
Yeah, no, I get it. Not everybody, that's an interesting sidebar, but as business owners, sometimes we think we need to service every client. And I've learned over the years that sometimes not accepting a client that you think is going to be a headache is better, or firing clients that are.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you've got a ton of experience. What is how long have you been a public adjuster, and what is your reach? How far can you, we work in Nebraska and Iowa, help our listeners understand how long you've been doing this, how many claims you've done, and how far of a reach, how many states, or how far can you go?
Yeah. So I got my license in March of 2019. So it's, I guess, almost coming up on 6 years, pretty close here, which has been, it's gone fast. I still feel like the derecho from 2020 happened yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was your baptism by flood, not fire, I guess.
By tornado.
By tornado,
Not
yeah.
actually. Yeah. Inland hurricane. That's what everybody likes to call it.
Was that the one where all the corn and crops were laid flat? Yeah. Okay. I do remember that. Yeah.
Yep. All the grain bins were blown over. Yeah.
Nuts.
30% of the tree canopy in Cedar Rapids just gone. But yeah, so we worked maybe 300 or 400 claims from that derecho.
Oh my goodness. Just from that one storm.
Just from that one storm. And, we were not even close to the only public adjuster working there. There's probably 20 other companies with maybe not as many claims, but still a lot. And so it was a big public adjuster event, that derecho, because a lot of people realized when a catastrophe comes that their insurance company isn't really prepared or intending to take care of them. It became much more obvious when it was happening at that scale. That's what I'm trying to say. But from there, we had to expand a lot, obviously, to capture, and to meet the need from that storm. And we didn't really want to shrink back down to the handful of guys that we had before the storm. And so the only way to maintain that volume, that size, that overhead.
The staff, right? You got to find a place to get them to work.
Exactly. Was to increase our geographical reach, to, catch more events that happen. And so we started expanding, in 21 and 22 and 23, keep adding more and more states. And so I'm licensed in 25 states right now.
Holy buckets.
Yep. The firm is a few states behind.
Okay.
Because in most states you have to get your personal license first, and then you can apply for your firm license.
Okay.
There's a couple states that we operate in, like South Dakota and Alaska, that don't require a public adjuster license to work there. And then there's a few states. The
true Wild West.
Yeah.
The Wild North, wherever you're at.
Exactly. Right. It's both. But and then there's Alabama and Arkansas, which do not license and do not permit the practice.
Interesting.
They consider it to be the practice of law. Which in a way it kind of is, right? It's a carve out.
I've talked to you plenty of times, and you start to sound like an attorney.
Not sure whether that's a compliment or an insult.
Well, let me say it differently. You confuse the heck out of me because of your understanding of contracts and specifically insurance. How what they're required to do and not do.
Again, by design.
Yeah, it's incredible the knowledge you have. So, you mentioned there's obviously other public adjusters, and you guys have yourself a wealth of experience, lots of claims that you've done, a large geographic reach. How does somebody decide which public adjuster? Is there a difference?
Oh yeah. There's a
besides the fact that I like you and you're here. I mean, of course I would recommend you, but somebody that doesn't know you and they don't know me. They don't know if they should trust my recommendation. How do they discern?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it can be difficult because there can be a lot of bad actors that escape the limelight of crime and punishment. Specifically, there was a public adjuster that came to Iowa after the derecho and never got licensed in the state. And so his firm was running around signing millions and millions worth of claims without having the licensed authority to do so. And, that alone isn't necessarily, harming anybody directly. However, he stole a lot of people's money. He took their claim checks. He forged their signatures. He forged the bank signatures.
Oh my gosh.
And
talk about
he's in the wind.
Taking a bad situation and making it worse. Like the property owners had to be like, what in the heck?
Yep.
That's predatory, dude.
It's super predatory.
Especially when somebody is already kicked and they're down.
Yep. Yeah, the storm after the storm after the storm.
Right.
They get property damaged and their insurance company doesn't treat them right. They hire someone to help and that person,
hurts them worse.
Yeah. So the banks can't find him. The property owners can't find him. The state.
So what do
can't
you
even
guys
find
do
him.
differently? Because meeting you on the street, I wouldn't know if I met that guy and met you and I never met you before. How do I decide who to pick? Like help people understand what you guys do differently.
Yep. And so obviously there's a lot to be said about actually looking into the people that you hire. A lot of people just want to believe, like you said earlier, they want to believe that everything's nice and great.
Of course,
trust
people
and butterflies.
When they say something, you believe it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm sort of that way, honestly. Like I tend to be trust first, but not everybody should do that.
No, especially in cases like this where there's a lot of money involved and a dispute. And in most cases, it's people's, their most significant asset, whether it be their home or their business that's damaged. And so doing their due diligence and actually investigating and looking into. And
what does that look like? Is it like going on LinkedIn? Is it calling references? How do they do that?
At the very least, validating their license.
Okay.
Right. All of these people could have avoided this situation by simply going on to Iowa Gov's website and verifying that this firm had a license.
Okay. Is there a universal place? Or where
there
would you tell
is,
people
but
to go?
it's not accessible to the average consumer.
Okay.
It's called the National Insurance Producer Registry. It's maintained by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. If you know someone, the last four of someone's social, you can pull their license on there. But if you don't know that, then you probably can't. But in most states, public adjusters are supposed to display their license number on their contracts, on any marketing material.
So if someone were to ask, hey, Caeden, what's your license number? You provide it, then they could go online and search it and verify that it's legit.
190-54754.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I haven't verified that. I'm going to check that.
You better check that.
So that would be your recommendation, right?
Yeah,
Get the license number and then go online and make sure they're licensed.
Absolutely. Validate their license. Another thing that is easy to do is look at the associations, the public adjuster associations, the consumer advocacy associations. See if these public adjusters are members, see if they're sponsors. Just like my firm, we're members of the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. We're members of the American Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. I'm actually the president of the American Adjuster Association and also the Iowa Public Adjuster Association.
So you guys clearly care about not only your business, but the industry and bettering it. I think I heard you say just recently that you were meeting with legislators trying to help make sure that the consumers were protected and that you guys had, your scope protected, not reduced. I don't know what that was all about, but the point is that you're actively involved in the betterment of the industry and the association the membership to the association
Yeah.
sort of reflects that commitment. Is that a fair way to say it?
It's a fair way to say it. Most of these organizations also have codes of conduct that have to be agreed to, that sort of thing.
So there's a standard that people can look to and say, he subscribed to this, I can sort of expect the same.
And most of these organizations do a certain degree of due diligence when approving their members as well. And so if there's any type of, disciplinary action, et cetera,
it'll be recorded somewhere in that.
It'll be recorded, and these associations will very likely not approve or not allow you to be a member.
Interesting.
Of that.
Okay.
They don't want to be associated with bad actors.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So licensing, membership in well-known and respected associations. Anything else that would be, those are like, I can do that from behind a computer screen.
Yep.
What about interaction-wise? Is there questions they should be asking or about the person? Or how far would you suggest they take it? I don't want them to have to do a full exam,
background check.
Right.
Background check never hurts, right? Most states require us to do a background check just to get licensed. But you can check if they have E&O insurance.
Okay.
Generally more frequently called professional liability
Sure.
for us specifically. You can verify that, the credentials that they have. You can ask for a copy of their CV or their resume.
Do you ever share references? Do you ever have to
absolutely.
Would that be encouraged? Like, can you give me a couple of other insured people that you've helped?
Absolutely. It's relatively easy to abuse that.
Sure.
But
call my dad.
Yeah.
Like, he'll give me a good reference, right?
Yeah. Call my buddy Timmy.
So I want you to tell a story if you can think of one.
Oh boy.
Share a story with the audience of a time where somebody did not hire a public adjuster. And how did that affect the property owner? What mistakes did they make? How did it hurt them? What we're trying to establish here is that there's stakes involved, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to have a public adjuster. The adjuster from the insurance company can do this job. That's not in question. The question is, can they do it to the extent and the degree and the proficiency, to the level that a public adjuster can. So can you share a story of an example of where somebody didn't hire the public adjuster and the problems that caused? Or are you out of that loop because you're not involved?
I would say I'm mostly out of that loop.
Maybe you've heard horror stories that you want to share.
Well, there's ample examples of people who have tried to, resolve their claim on their own and been unsuccessful, and then eventually hire
and you come in
adjuster.
later.
Yeah, exactly.
Any that stick out that are particularly like, gosh, I wish you would have hired me earlier because this is way harder now.
Yeah.
I can see the Rolodex flipping.
Yeah. That's right. This claim. We'll just use a recent claim. We just ended up settling a claim where we got brought in the 11th hour. It was about 20 months or so, maybe 22 months after the storm had happened. This was a hailstorm that impacted maybe $1.5 million house that had all what used to be called Pella Architect Series windows. They're called Pella Reserve now. Okay. They're Pella's top line, tippy top line. And they're 2-3 times as expensive as the next line down. Mm-hmm. And the insurance company, whether they knew that or not, did not want to acknowledge the hail damage that existed to these windows. They did not want to agree that these windows needed to be replaced. And over the course of 18 months, the insurance company continued to reinforce that position by hiring additional experts, switching up adjusters. That's
slowing it down, tactic. Delaying it.
Yep.
Extending, trying to wear out the other side.
Yeah. So this client had gathered a lot of information and would present it to these adjusters and almost get these adjusters to the point where, okay, well, maybe we should do something, try and settle this claim. and then it'd get reassigned.
Oh my goodness.
I'd have to start all the way back over, right? With some peon adjuster who was flipping burgers yesterday, and
that is nothing. So irritating.
Super irritating.
The consumer after, and they're 20 months into this deal.
Yep. And they keep thinking, well, this guy's going to help me out, right? Because that's what the adjuster says. Oh, we're gonna get this worked out. I'm on the case now. I've got this, right? And 3 months later, the claim still hasn't been paid.
Yeah.
And so there was other damages involving this property as well: the roof, the gutters, some siding damage that had been adjusted well enough, right? But the windows were $300,000 item, right, on this $1.5 million house. And so this particular policy had a 2-year statute of limitations.
You're bumping up against it.
Yep, we're bumping up against it. We have a couple months. So we hurry up and rush to get all of our ducks in a row, make sure that, a proof of loss has been filed, make sure that the insurance company has been given every piece of evidence, every reason, and every opportunity to do the right thing and pay this claim within that 2-year window. And they continue to slow walk it. When we get involved, things don't just magically happen.
Right.
Sometimes they do.
Right.
But more often than not, what we're doing is setting the claim up. We're papering the file.
You're building the case so
exactly.
that the chance of denial or a reduced claim is mitigated to almost none because you've got all the reasons why it needs to be paid at the level that you're recommending.
Yep. We're ripening it is one way to put it. So we're doing things to create leverage in a certain sense of the word, where it evens out that power imbalance, because now we start to have more information, we start to have a better case. The insurance company has done things, taken actions or inactions that hurt them, right? Or hurt their perception, the perception of them in the eyes of a jury or a judge or some other
which is ultimately where it would end up if you don't settle it. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's where the ultimate decision on claims happens in a courtroom. Ideally, everybody wants to avoid that, but if you don't treat a claim with that in mind,
like, we're going to end up there, so let's make sure we have everything ready to go. And then when you settle, you didn't need it, but had you not settled and you didn't prepare, you'd lose in court.
Exactly. And if you didn't prepare, there wouldn't be the leverage and motivation for the insurance company to settle. That's the big key right there.
There's so much in here, you guys, that is nuanced and requires expertise of understanding how this all works. And I don't know about you, but running an investment, real estate investment company, I've got a lot of other things to be thinking about, like occupancy and rent collection and maintenance and buying properties and rehab and all the stuff. And to be an expert on this stuff on top of it is just not even possible.
No.
So I want to share a quick story on the opposite end of the spectrum. That story sounds very painful to be in 22 months. But this was sort of a light bulb moment for me when I first, I don't know if it was the first claim or one of the first claims that I worked with Caeden on. We had purchased a property that was right at $1 million, and there was a claim that I think had been denied. I don't remember the details, but there was a claim that got us it got assigned to me under the advice of Caeden, which that's a whole conversation that if you're not familiar with assignment of claims, we can talk offline. You can call me or you can reach out to Caeden and we'll help you understand how it works.
Very powerful tool. Very powerful.
It's incredible. So we get the claim assigned and I'm thinking we're probably going to get nothing. And we bought it that way. We underwrote it thinking that the damage we saw, we were going to have to come out of pocket to fix. So we get the deal under contract, we close, I hand the claim over to Caeden. Within a few months, he calls and says, hey, I've got $200,000 for this claim. And my jaw hit the floor. I don't know if you remember that call,
yeah.
But I was like, are you kidding me? Like, how did this happen? How did you take what I thought was a nothing burger and turn it into this amazing claim that then we could use instead of out of pocket for CapEx that we had anticipated this insurance money for, and it made that deal like it was almost enough to cover our down payment. So effectively owning the property because of that claim without having any capital out of pocket. That was like ding, 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 ding. Like the light bulbs are going off and we got to do something here. And so that changed everything for me. And now Caeden does, again, like I mentioned, all of our insurance claim, all of our property inspections with us up front. He does it on single family, but on any multi or larger units he does. And he handles all of our claims. So couldn't be happier. So let's talk to next steps. What can somebody listening to this do to start engaging you or a public adjuster? Not everyone's going to be able to work with you. So how would you advise them to take next steps, and whether it's education or connection, or if they have a claim now? Right. So walk them through the next steps to take action.
Yeah. So if you have a claim right now, and either it's just beginning or it's not going your way, or you just want a second opinion to see if it's in a good place or not, we provide free claim review. So you can reach out, you can connect with me. We'll have my contact information posted with the podcast. And you can reach out to me or my firm, or you can go to our website, swiftpublicadjusters.com, and fill out the form there. And we'll take a look at the claim. Obviously, we'll need to gather as much information about it as possible to create an educated opinion about whether or not our services can provide value, or if you're better off going a different route, or if you should be satisfied with where things are at. If you're looking at a property, especially a large multifamily or commercial property, and you think there might be damage, or you don't know if there's damage.
Define large. What would give them a threshold of where it might make sense to engage you in looking at a property? Is it a $200,000 building? Is it a $10 million building?
It depends on the location and the state. Across the board, we'll go pretty much anywhere for a property that is $1 million. If it's in a location that we have personnel close to, that number can get a little bit smaller. But even if it's of any decent size, it's very easy for us to plug an address in and see if there's been any recent storms.
Yeah.
And just let you know if there's a potential for there to be damage.
So it sounds to me like that would be an easy maybe first step for people looking at property to say, hey, Caeden, could you just see storm damage in this area recently?
Yep.
And at least put it on their radar to look for it. And if they see something, maybe they see some dents in the gutter, or they see a shingle missing or something, or window cracked.
Yeah, cracked siding.
That could be a trigger then to get you involved.
Right.
So that's a great first step in how they might take action. I guess the other thing is you took the liberty of putting together a free listener bonus. Let me see what it was called. That will be downloadable. And I think you said it was broken down sort of into two categories. One is, well, why don't you explain that there's two, the name of it is 10 Insurance Claim Pitfalls Property Owners Face. So this is going to be like the things that to look out for and to avoid on two fronts.
Yeah, so the first front is stuff that must be approached and considered before the loss occurs, right? So generally things that are related to the policy and that have significant impacts on how a claim is handled or settled, or what coverage you have. And then the second part is actions or inactions taken after the loss occurs that has significance for how the claim proceeds, how it's settled, et cetera. So we'll be providing our listeners with that. And, if you have any questions about any of those points, or you're curious to see how, any claim that you have might be impacted by any of that sort of stuff, be happy to follow up with anyone to discuss that.
That's awesome. I appreciate you so much for being a part of our business and all the value that you've brought to me personally. And for me to be able to bring that to our listeners and to share your expertise is incredible. I think the awareness that people like Caeden even exist is huge, let alone what they can do and the power that they can have to help your business. So instead of feeling this wonder or fear and wondering, I have a claim, what do I do? And instead of trusting, the good nature of your insurance company and their adjusters, now you have an advocate, public adjusters that can come alongside, help ensure that you're getting what you deserve, that the property that you have paid for insurance on is going to be fixed the right way, and that you don't have that headache of lingering claims hanging out there that he can solve and bring to closure very quickly. So with that, I just appreciate you so much, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Great seeing you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Until next time, we'll see you on the next episode of the Legacy Lab podcast. See ya.